Happy weekend and welcome to the Week 3 recap. I'm Dan.
I'm Jake Prescott, JP, and some of the other ones I don't want to admit.
All right, so we got all these guys here, and this week, let's jump in with this week a lot of our league's top scorers cooled off, and we started feeling the injury bug bite a little stronger than usual. But to start things off, let's jump to the matchup with the highest scorer of the week, and that is your own truly, Boiled Denim. And I was taking on Boy's Soul this week. Scored 120 points. My two main dogs, Derrick Henry and Devontae Smith, both had over 20 points this week. And Amari Cooper and the Eagles defense were also big contributors on the week, with the Eagles putting up 9 sacks against Carson Wentz and the Commanders. If I had to have a complaint this week, which I know I don't really have room to complain, but I'm still on the throw Derek Carr in jail bandwagon because Devontae Adams deserves so much more. I know he scored a touchdown this week, but it's my week. I can be greedy. And as far as my team now and for the future, I'm going to keep rolling with those keepers.
Yeah, no,
So on the other side for Boy Soul, Jack's team was led by Tony Pollard and Joe Burrow, and Logan Thomas almost had a touchdown catch, but was stopped right at the goal line. And McCole Hardman also had less than 1 point with 0.2 points. So Prescott, or whatever your name is, what he saw, what did you think this week, and what strategies would you have for me and Jack moving forward?
I know. I think this was more of a bigger payoff week for you with Devontae Smith because we have gone on back and forth about like you need to drop him. Like a lot of people don't claim him, like everything like that. And I think he had a really low claim percentage. It was like 60-some% or something like that at the beginning of the season. So for him to have such a big game, I'm sure for you it's just like that perfect yeah, like I've been keeping him, I've been waiting. There's gonna be a payoff. Here comes the payoff. Amari Cooper doing what he did best in there. I mean, that was huge. And as a Browns fan, I was really happy to see that as well. And then finally, you got some points from DH. And how did Harris do again? What were his stats?
He scored 10 points, and he also had that fumble on the last play of the game where they did the classic trying to lateral it, and he just threw it into the end zone. And
Yeah,
at that point, it was Thursday night, so I was just pit. I was like, a solid game, not his best outing, but he had a solid 12 points, and it was very nice to see him lose 2 of those points on the final play. Just like, of course, that was Harris throwing the ball into the end zone.
yeah. And then how did Hilaire? Sorry, guys, I have like none of my notes or anything with me. It's been one of those weeks. But how did Hilaire score again?
Hilaire had 9.9 points this week.
Okay, I'm surprised he's still doing as well. And I saw that Tony Pollard had a great week too. So yeah, I know. I'm still thinking about that, but I know I like my investment I made with my backs on that. But Jack, even though I really feel like started off with probably the least bit of opportunity with this with the season coming up. That trade to get Pollard and Hilaire was huge. He gave up a first, but I mean it wasn't the worst deal. I mean it still was something that worked out pretty well. Um, but I mean I still think both you guys are in good spots. I think your team's only get better and better and better. I think that come towards the end of the season, this is going to be one of your better years. And Jack is always a contender. No matter what, Jack's always a contender. He's always in the race.
Yeah, I got to roll with my boys. I invested so much last year in those 4 keepers, and I just got to
Yeah,
keep rolling with them. I know I'm still looking at. I'll still look at trade offers. I know none of them have come so far, but I'll consider them. But as of right now, I think my main strategy is going to be roll with those keepers.
absolutely.
So let's move on to the second matchup, which was Team Philly Special versus the Nightman Cometh.
Yeah,
And Michael took this one 108 to 82. A couple key points from this matchup. Lamar Jackson, he's QB1. He's on fire. He's killing it. A.J. Brown is a total beast, the Eagles' top receiver. And all the Eagles wide receivers are really hot with Hurts right now. And Hurts is just tearing up the league. Also for Michael, Dallas Goddard scored a touchdown. And Christian Kirk, surprisingly, he scored over 10 points every week this season so far down there in Jacksonville under Doug Peterson, and he's wide receiver 5 right now.
yeah. No, Christian Kirk is looking great. That was projected to lose by 30, and the projections were absolutely right. I know it's supposed to be like 90 to like 110 or 120 or something like that. And yeah, I mean, there really wasn't anything I feel like I could have done better this week against Michael. Michael has a very, very stout team. There's a lot of great depth there. And to really catch him, I mean, he's got to have a good week where all these people, you have to have a week where Jonathan Taylor is bad, where Lamar Jackson's not going to be that great, where Stephon Diggs isn't going to be that great. And that is just asking a crazy amount. he's got three really top guys right there. And for someone who auto drafted, he really got a lot of good depth in there too. For me though, and this is how I'm trying to look at the bigger picture of everything. My Brees Hall did well. Damian Pierce did well with points, and they're steadily, developing. They're doing okay. Travis Etienne is not as well as I'd like, but I have a lot of depth, and so my whole thing I'm banking on is as bye weeks come up that helps me out. But in our league, you have to win 8 games to really make the playoffs. The last 3 years that we've had, 8 wins was really around that special number. There was one year I think we had a 7 and it was an 8-7 actually. That was before we had the extra week on with the NFL. But still, I mean, 8 games is really what you're looking for. And right now, it's looking really tight for me to be able to win 8 games. And where I invested so much into the season, we'll see how the next few weeks go. But I got to be perfect and spotless, and I don't. It's gonna be rough.
Yeah, Carson Wentz getting sacked 9 times didn't help you much at all.
Yeah,
And starting Gabe Davis over CeeDee Lamb, how do you feel about that now that the week is over?
I'm still gonna lose regardless. I mean, it really wasn't going to matter one way or the other. I will probably not start CeeDee Lamb for the rest of the season because, like, he has, even with Cooper Rush, and Cooper Rush is doing better than I thought, he's still being very, very consistent. So, yeah, I think CeeDee Lamb's going to be a lock. He's obviously going to be a keeper moving forward. But the cool thing is I feel like my young backs are starting to kind of develop more, and those could be either keeper or trade pieces. I'm still about Hunt, man. Like, I feel like I have to put him in the lineup because I feel like he's a potential touchdown stealer from Chubb. But at the same
He
time,
definitely is.
he's a terrible handcuff because there's a lot of times where he scores like 6 points. And so, like,
Which he did this week.
yeah. And so it's really tough. Part of me kind of wants to get rid get rid of Hunt. But going back to my trades on this, I traded McCaffrey for Chubb. And I know we're only in week 4, but so far, Chubb is the number 1 back in the NFL. And at the beginning of the season, Chubb was somebody who was listed to get picked up in the 2nd or 3rd round. And I thought that was insane. So I feel a little bit better being like, okay, he is as good as I thought he was. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential on my team, but a lot of stuff has to go right. And a lot of stuff has just gone absolutely wrong. So it's going to be it's an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah, just believe in those running backs. All right, moving on to the third matchup of the week. It was the official Kitten Mittens taking down Team Suicide Pact. Marshall's Kitten Mittens scored 104 points this week, and he had big performances by Mark Andrews, Hollywood Brown, and the unfortunately now injured Dalvin Cook. While Wes's team suffered just a general low scoring day, Joe Mixon only had 3.8 points, and the Chargers defense posted a -6 spot up there for the team. And if you can count on the Chargers for one thing, you can count on them to disappoint you. So,
Yeah.
speaking of disappointment, actually, there was a trade this week in the league that led Marshall to acquire his second leading scorer of the week in Chase Edmonds. What are your thoughts on that trade and how it affected this week?
All right, so my mindset with the whole trade going into it was I needed to pick up a quarterback. And so regardless, I was probably going to drop Edmonds to pick up a quarterback because I was like, I just got to have somebody else who's like besides Russ, because Russ has just been horrible. He's just been awful. And if we're looking at my running back depth, I'm never going to start Edmonds. I did start him in week 2, and that was a mistake. But I'm never going to start him again. I mean, with Damian Pierce doing what he's doing, with Brees Hall doing what he's doing, and hell, I'd probably do ETN before I would do Edmonds again. And if you look at Edmonds' stats, I think he had 6 rushes for 20 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he really still isn't somebody who's reliable. I mean, again, he had 6 rushes the entire game. He's a big boom or bust guy. He's a big risk. He's a bye week dude that you put in for sure, I feel like. So I was going to drop him. And so if I could trade him and get a little bit better quarterback quality, which I felt like I did with Wentz off of base stuff of what was available on the waiver pickup, I'd still do it again.
I think that's a fair justification. I think in moving forward, especially for Marshall's team, I'm interested to see how he balances his running backs. And looking at his roster, I think he definitely needed to make a move for a running back, at least if it's just for a backup.
Yeah.
With David Montgomery getting hurt this week and Khalil Herbert putting up 28.9 points, it'll be interesting to see if you can actually trust Herbert moving forward. I know you were big on Herbert this week. Also, another thing I'm looking at for Marshall's team is Robbie Anderson versus Michael Thomas. I know Michael Thomas didn't go off by any means this week, but with Baker Mayfield and just how inconsistent Robbie Anderson is week to week throughout all the time that I've known him in fantasy, what do you think about that? What do you think about? I feel like we've said a couple times about Robbie Anderson. I just have a thing against Robbie Anderson. I think I had him one year and he just disappointed me. So I have a like a Mike Williams grudge against him for the rest of time.
What I will say about Baker Mayfield is you never trust him. You never, ever, 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 ever trust him. And with Robbie Anderson, who I feel like is like someone else you just don't trust, like you said, it is either the big deep ball for the touchdown or nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, it's either a 70-yard touchdown or he gets 2 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you can't trust that. That is a bye week. I have to start him, but I would never invest in him. And if I have him on my team, I hate him because every single time you don't start him, he does great. And every single time you start him, he shits the damn bed. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I hate that. And Michael Thomas might not be great, but I still feel like is going to be a bit more consistent. And I know he's got Jameis Winston, and that's rough. But I still think he's a little bit more consistent for sure.
Yeah, Jameis Winston needs a new back. As far as Wes's Team Suicide Pack moving forward, I feel like for the most part it was just an unlucky week and don't panic too much.
2 losses,
If you want to make up some changes, say again.
2 losses in a row.
2 losses in a row. So I think if Curtis Samuel, if one thing that Wes could look at, if Curtis Samuel isn't up to snuff in the couple weeks, Romeo Dobbs I think showed a little chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. He put up 13.3 points this week.
He picked.
And Drake London, I don't know if I trust him, but he's been surprisingly steady, I think, and he's wide receiver 11 right now.
I like Drake
And
London. Trust Mariota, but did he pick up Duvernay?
yeah, he picked up Duvernay. It was 2 weeks ago. Duvernay had that kick return, right?
Yeah, but he's had. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he scored I think a touchdown at least every week so far, hasn't he?
He has pulling him up. He's got 3 touchdowns
Yeah,
so far. Yeah, I didn't see it week by week, but yeah, and also Wes's bench is pretty loaded. I think he's got a lot of talent for if he's got any injuries coming up. Like if he has any injuries, he's good to keep plugging and playing.
what Wes has to watch out for is where he has so much decent depth. Sometimes you get messed up who to start and who not to. Like it's one of those deals where sometimes you have too much like you have too many good running backs or you have too many good receivers or whatever it might be, and you just don't start the right ones. I feel like last year Josh had like 4 of like the top 5 receivers, and it was just a matter of like who did he put in, who did he not, who did he put in, who did he not, kind of deal. And sometimes that can be just as bad as not having anybody.
Yeah, I think there's still a pretty clear distinction between his top players and his bottom players. And I guess it's always good to have depth either way, but it can be a double-edged sword.
Absolutely.
So moving on to the next matchup, we have the Gang Plays Fantasy versus Fat Mac, and this might be the upset of the week, in my opinion, with Thomas in the gang winning 98-76 or something close to that. I rounded a lot of these numbers.
Cam Akers.
Congrats to Thomas. Congrats to Thomas for his first win of the first win of the season. Like you said, Cam Akers went off. Kyle Pitts had a couple points, and Juju Smith-Schuster. They all kind of put in respectable weeks, even though Aaron Jones didn't really pop off this week. And leading the way for Thomas was Cordero Patterson and Kirk Cousins. Cordero Patterson is picking up right where he left off last year. Are you surprised with how well he's running, especially as like a traditional running back? I saw him break off a lot of big runs, just taking the ball out of the backfield, nothing special, just straight running.
I am, but at the same time too, I also think he's a high risk injury kind of person. So I love seeing what I'm seeing now, but I'd be curious how long this goes. But no, I mean he's absolutely picking up, and that was a late round pick for Thomas, so that worked out fantastic. Him in late round picks like Mac Jones, he usually does really really well with. But at the same time, Cam Akers coming off makes me feel like, okay, you can put a little respect on that name again. Like, okay, I know week 1 was 0 points, but now he's starting to come through. And if you look at the touches he had, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he had like somewhere between 12 and 18 touches or carries. And then the other back, Henderson, had like 2. So like, it's very, very obvious that Cam is slowly starting to really take the lead in the backfield there. And that's going to be huge.
Man, the NFC West and those running backs, you could never trust any of them to get consistent carries ever.
I'd agree with that.
49ers, the Seahawks, the Rams, they're always just out there to screw you. You're always going to start the wrong guy when it comes to the NFC West.
I'd agree with that too. And I mean, but that's one thing that I'm glad to see Thomas do so well. I'm really glad to see that he had a good week on that. And it's kind of nice to see because, there's been some real rough times for Thomas. So it was obviously nice to see that. But I will say this: last week we did the little game of who do you think is going to keep winning throughout the year, and you picked Josh. So I guess already in the after 1 week, I picked you to win, and I was very very correct. So I'll go ahead and just take that right there.
Oh yeah, I guess that's already
Yeah,
over.
already over after 1 week. Yeah, yeah. But this obviously was a rough week for Josh. He's got no running back depth. I know he's going to probably look to start Madison this week in place of which one of his running backs got hurt again? Swift.
DeAndre Swift got hurt.
Yeah. So I look for him to start that. He obviously needs to make some moves at running back. And it's funny too because I know I'm probably one of the more teams loaded on running back, but part of me, I just don't really feel like I need anything right now. The only thing I would probably look for trading is probably later picks and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see because that's the one area he's a little bit shy on. However, Josh's team is still so good that I don't think it's going to really ruffle that. I don't think it's going to really hurt him that bad,
Yeah, I don't think Justin Jefferson's going to be scoring the way he's been scoring the last 2 weeks and these upcoming weeks and for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase, all these names are big. I don't remember how long DeAndre Swift's out, but I think as soon as he comes back, he's going to be a star again. And Alexander Madison, Dalvin Cook got hurt, so Alexander Madison is one of the best handcuffs in the league. You stick him right in, at least temporarily. I think Fat Mac's team is going to be fine. The one thing I will say with both of these teams moving forward is what's with all the QBs on the bench. Thomas has Mac Jones and Jared Goff on the bench, and Josh has Trevor Lawrence on the bench. I don't know. What do you think about having a backup quarterback on the bench? I feel like
I
I'm not a big fan of
I
it.
never do it, but this year with Russ being shit, I felt like I had to grab somebody else. And usually I feel like you can get, as long as your quarterback is scoring around somewhere between 15 to 20 points, like that's a good average that you're really kind of looking for. Like that's really like the bare minimum. And every now and then when they have the nice spike, that's good. But having
Or if you have like a Jalen Hurts or a Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen type quarterback, I don't think you need to be having a second quarterback on the team. I'm sure Josh may argue that, but
yeah,
um, I think it's a worthwhile conversation to
I
have.
don't think he needs Trevor Lawrence on the bench by any means. And then I really don't think. I think Thomas has he had Kirk Cousins and he dropped him. I know he has Mac Jones. Who's the other quarterback that he had?
He has Mac Jones, Jared Goff, and Kirk Cousins is starting this week.
Wow.
I think Kirk Cousins is a fine fantasy quarterback. I mean, you can talk all the crap you want about Kirk Cousins as a quarterback who actually wins in the NFL, but fantasy wise, he's fine,
Mac
and he puts up big weeks every once in a
Mac
while.
Jones is out for multiple weeks, so that needs
Oh yeah, he got fucked this
that
week.
needs to be a drop. When you have Kirk Cousins and Golf, I'd rather have both those people than Mac Jones by miles, by miles. He
Yeah,
should.
I'd drop Mac Jones, Jared Goff, and Chuba Hubbard for a cheese sandwich right
Yeah.
now. So
So I don't agree with that. And that's my thing. And I know I'm being very hypocritical because I have two QBs, but I feel like I'm in a unique situation where I picked a quarterback that should have been a top 5 quarterback or usually is, and he has just produced nothing. That whole team has produced nothing.
I think it's I think it's a different story when you don't have a clear quarterback.
Yeah.
I think it's a little more justifiable when you don't have a clear
But
number
if I had
one.
Jalen Hurts, there's no way that I would ever have anybody else on my team. Especially Trevor Lawrence. Don't get me wrong, he's not bad and he's done very, very well this season. But when are you going to start him over Jalen Hurts? His bye week, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it just depends on how bad you want to win that bye
I
week.
guess so.
All right, moving on. We're going to the money team versus Pepe Silvia's picks. And the money team and their owner, Tyler, have lived up to their name to start this
3
season as the newest franchise in the league is now out to a sizzling 3-0 start. And their start has been led off, at least this week, by Saquon Barkley and Cooper Kupp, and my main nemesis right now, Derek Carr. Those three led the scoring charge this weekend, while the Cincinnati Bengals rightfully spanked the Jets, like I
Mm-hmm.
predicted, on the way to 15 defensive points.
You're absolutely right on that. It looks like Flacco's no longer going to be leading the helm. It looks like Wilson's coming back. Bengals finally picked up that first win. But yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp is just automatic. He's doing great. Barkley is back to his shape. Tyler's doing great. And to start off 3-0, like I said, you really need 8 wins to be able to make the playoffs. And hell, Kelsey made 8 wins last year and still didn't. But you really have to have a minimum of 8. And he really only has to pick up 5 more. And if you look at his schedule, I think it's very attainable. And I think, going into the season beforehand, I really didn't think he had a very strong team, but now looking at how the rest of the year is going to play out, like he's definitely a contender to be in the playoffs for sure.
Oh, 100%. And I think he's got his bench depth is pretty good too. Like Chris Olave broke out this week. He had 147 yards, I'm pretty sure. Brandon Ayuk and Noah Brown, I think, are solid spot starters. If you need to put them in for a week, they have a potential to score you 10, 15 points. And I think the whole team is just looking pretty good moving forward. I think to go over to Pepe Silvia's side, you got boxes of Pepe over there, and Patrick Mahomes put up a decent 17 points, not one of his best performances, especially when they lost to the Colts, which I think is hilarious. And Amon-Ra St. Brown still looks great. I think he's going to be a stud all year, but he only had, I think, 7 points this week. It really just wasn't his week. Um, just not getting a lot of production from anybody. I think. How do you think he'll put in Jamal? Do you think he'll put in Jamal Williams? How do you think with DeAndre Swift going down? What do you think Jamal Williams' impact will be on Pepe's team moving
I think it'll
forward?
be huge. He's not going to switch up his lineup. And the funniest part is, we were talking about this. He's kind of, if you've ever seen the league, he's kind of the taco in our league because I feel like he will very rarely switch up his lineup, even when he has people that are just out because he just doesn't keep up with it as much. And then I think all of a sudden, randomly in the middle of the season, he'll actually look at it and change up a few players. And it'll be one of those moves.
And those it'll be kind of random, and those players will go
Yeah,
off, and he'll go on an incredible hot
and like
streak.
you'll be going up against him where you think it's going to be an easy bye week, and all of a sudden he makes adjustments, and you're like, "No, you don't. You never do that. Like you never do that. Like why are you doing that now? Why are you trying to fuck me? Like why? No, don't do that." So yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be fine. He always has these dumb luck. I mean, last year he made the playoffs, and he really. I mean, we made some big trades and stuff like that, but I mean he always lucks out in weird stuff like this. So he's one of those guys you can just never count out. The Pepe Sylvia name is great for him because it's just like, is he going to show up this week or is he not? You don't know. Is he there?
Yeah. Is he there? Is he not? You don't know
Yeah.
where he is. Is he part of some greater conspiracy?
You know.
Who knows? You got to ask
Yeah.
Carol. You got to ask Carol and HR.
So, but I think it's a great name for that. Obviously, I go up against him this next week, and it's the first week I'll be projected to win, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, let's see if you can get that W. All right, last but not least, we move over to Wild Card Bitches versus Rickety Cricket. And this week, JJ pulled out the 93-74 win over Kelsey. Wild Card Bitches was led, as always, by the incredible Josh Allen and good old James Robinson down in Jacksonville under Dougie P. I think everybody in Jacksonville looked great under Doug Peterson. Obviously, I love Doug Peterson being an Eagles fan. And I would never wanted him to go. I'm happy with Nick Sirianni, but I still love Doug Peterson. I hope he gets a big standing ovation this week coming to Philadelphia. I think they're coming to Philadelphia, and then they beat the shit out of him. Um, and those two performances by Robinson and Josh Allen were supplemented by some clutch TD catches by Mike Williams and TJ Hawkinson, who otherwise had low yardage games. They didn't have a lot of yards, they just had clutch touchdowns. And on the other side of this matchup, Kelsey was led by Travis Kelsey, Jalen Waddle, and Matt Prater, and they couldn't overcome TB12 and even more injuries for Kelsey. Kelsey's whole roster right now is looking very, very injured, looking extra rickety in that rickety cricket name. With David Montgomery going down this week and Baker Mayfield just tanking DJ Moore, and any fantasy value that he has is just looks like it's going down the
Don't
toilet.
trust Baker. Like I'm just telling you, don't trust Baker ever. JJ has had some great decisions on that. Last year, he traded me his first round pick. I traded him Josh Allen after I just traded a fifth round pick for Josh Allen. Grak. And that's turned out very, very well. He's been a great keeper. He's obviously had great points ever.
You got Josh Allen for a fifth round pick?
Yeah, Jack traded me Josh Allen. I gave him a fifth round pick, and then the next week I traded it to JJ for a first round pick. Like,
well, that was a great move by JJ too. That first round pick, Josh Allen,
yeah,
is combination of throwing and running.
yeah.
Oof.
And so after that worked out well. James Robinson, that was a late round pick by him, and nobody really was sure how he was going to do, and he has not lost a step. After that Achilles tear, he has not lost a step. He's incredibly reliable. He's doing great. The Jaguars' offense looks great. If you have anybody with the Jaguars, I feel like they're going to be decently reliable this season. Dougie P is doing great on that.
What a difference a coach
Yeah,
makes.
absolutely. And it's funny because they keep posting this around, but Dougie P is tied for Jaguars coaches, fifth all time for wins with Urban Meyer only 3 games in.
Yeah, that's so funny. And I just wanted to point out, I don't think I would have started him if I was managing Kelsey's team, but this week Devontae Parker had 156 yards and he scored less than 1 point total in the first 2 weeks of the year. And this week, while she has everybody else on her team get injured, Devontae Parker's sitting on the bench with 15.6 points. So I think bad luck and just a ton of injuries. Those NFC West running backs, they just will screw you
And
all day. James Conner,
this was a
every team in the NFC West, you just don't trust NFC West quarterbacks. I mean, running backs. They're all good, but they'll
and
always
that was
screw
a
you.
fun matchup because Kelsey and JJ are tied for the most wins in our league. Go before this season. Right now, JJ obviously has them, but it's a really fun matchup to see that. Kelsey always bounces back. You can never count Kelsey out, but JJ has never had a losing season either. So both of these teams have never had losing seasons. It'll be very interesting to see how the rest of it plays out. JJ looks like he is just staying on par. And no, JJ, I'm not going to trade Nick Chubb for Tua. That was insane. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I get Tua's having one of the best years ever, and I get that, but Nick Chubb's Nick Chubb. Like, no way. No way.
Yeah, people are really coveting those backup quarterbacks for some reason. I guess I just missed the train on that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, hopefully Kelsey doesn't have too many more injuries the rest of the year, and God save DJ Moore. And I still believe Tom Brady is going to have to come alive at some
No,
point, right? He's not just going to fade away the rest of this
no.
year. He's not?
So
You don't think he is?
back when we were in college, you drafted Tom Brady for me in the first round in one of my leagues. Entire season, Tom Brady just scored between 10 and 15 points.
I feel like I don't remember it that way.
I do because I was like, wow, crap. But he scored between 10 and 15 points like the entire season. I've never been big on fantasy Tom Brady by any means. And don't get me wrong, he still has great upside and stuff, but he's never been somebody that I would ever really want in fantasy, especially in a keeper league by any means, just because obviously you don't, every year he retires, I guess, or supposed to. I don't know. But, and I don't mean to disrespect Brady by any means, but I just, I don't think he is a good quarterback for fantasy in any means.
No, that's fair. It'll be interesting to see
I
how the
picked
rest
Russ
of
Wilson.
the year plays out for him. I don't think he can get
Yeah.
much worse. Yeah, he can't be much worse
Yeah.
than
So
Russell
what am
Wilson.
I talking about? Who knows?
Well, I think that's it for us for week 3, and we'll see you in week 4. Good luck, everybody.
Laters.